Chapter 5. The Battlefield. Trnt then took leave of all the ladies and the others there. When the 3 knights were outside the city, they gave their chargers to the pages and mounted other horses. Within a short time they reached the soldiers. Each knight went to his squadron, and Trnt went from one squadron to another, directing them constantly to stay in order. That day they traveled 5 leagues. They set up their tents in a beautiful meadow where there was water. After they had eaten, Trnt had 2,000 pikesmen keep watch until midnight, and he sent men along the road to see if they had heard soldiers or anything else. Trnt kept watch over the camp, moving from place to place. At the hour of midnight he had 2,000 other pikesmen take the place of those on watch, and he would not let them have pages, but made them all arm as if they were going into battle at any moment. When Trnt was in a war, he never took off his clothes except to change his shirt. Every morning, 2 hours before sunrise, he had the trumpets blow for the men to saddle the horses and to hold mass. Then the entire camp would arm themselves and quickly mount. At dawn they would all be ready to leave. They kept up this routine until they were 1.5 leagues from the enemy in a city named Blnc, which was in danger daily of surrendering to the powerful Turks. When they found out that the soldiers were coming to their aid, they were very happy, and they opened the gates to the city. The captain did not want to go in during the day so they would not be seen, but he did not do it secretly enough to avoid being heard. And the first to be notified that the soldiers had gone into the city of Blnc was the Grand Turk, but he did not know how many there were. The Grand Turk went at once to tell the Moorish Sultan, who sent 4 men towards the city of Blnc as spies to find out what they could about the men who had gone in. The next day Trnt took a man with him who knew the countryside very well, and they rode out as secretly as they could, and drew near the camp by back roads. From a hill they could see both the city and the camp. The Moorish Sultan was at one end, and the Grand Turk at the other. They recognized him by the large painted tents they saw. When they had looked the situation over very carefully, they returned to the city. On the way back they saw the Moorish guards. When they were back in the city and had dismounted, Trnt went to the square where he found most of the townspeople, and he told them, "Come here, my brothers. We have just been spying on the enemy camp, and on our way back we saw 4 of the camp guards. For each guard you bring me alive, I'll give you 500 ducats, and if you bring his head, I'll give you 300. How many of you want to go?" 7 men who knew the land well volunteered immediately. They left at night so no one could see them, and when they had traveled a good distance, one of them said, Why don't we go to the spring near here and cover ourselves with branches? The Moors are certain to come here to drink around noon with all this heat, and that way they'll fall into our hands." They agreed to do that, and they kept a very close watch from their hiding place. When the sun came out and they saw the Moors on top of the hill, as the sun grew hotter, they became thirsty and went to the spring for water. When they arrived, one of the Christians who was hidden said, "Let's not move until they have drunk and are full of water. That way they won't be able to run very fast." And that is what they did. When the Moors had drunk and eaten their fill, the Christians fell upon them with loud cries and immediately caught 3 of them. One tried to escape. When they saw that they could not catch him, they shot at him with a crossbow. The arrow pierced his side, and he fell to the ground. They cut off his head and stuck it to the point of a lance. Then they tied the hands of the others and took them to their captain. When Trnt saw them, he was very pleased, and he took the 3 Moors and had them closely guarded. Trnt had ordered everyone to eat early that day, and to saddle the horses and arm themselves so that they would be ready to leave. He had all the men go out of the city in order, both the foot soldiers and those riding horses. Behind them came 3,000 men with the mares. When they were near the Moors' camp, he had all the soldiers go to one side so the mares could pass by without the other horses sensing them. When the mares were at the entrance to the camp, with all the foot soldiers went in with them, and they divided into 2 groups. One went towards the Moorish Sultan, and the other towards the Grand Turk. Then the camp horses noticed the mares. Some got loose, others broke their halters, others tore out tore out the stakes that held them fast. You should have seen the horses running loose through the camp, some here, some there, and all of them after the mares. When this melee had gone on for a good while, and the entire camp was in confusion because of the horses, Trnt came and fell on part of it with half his men. Then the Duke of Pera and his men attacked the other side, calling on that glorious knight, St. George. Finally, the Moorish Sultan and the Grand Turk and their men fled to the mountain, while the others went to the plain. Trnt pursued them relentlessly, and he and his men killed everyone they caught, giving quarter to no one. All those who went to the mountain reached it safely, and those who went to the plain were either killed or taken prisoner. They pursued them for 3 leagues, and those heading for the mountains, where the road was shorter, came to a river with a wooden bridge where they could cross safely. When the Sultan and some of his men had crossed over, and they saw the Christians close behind, they broke the bridge in the middle. Then those who had not yet crossed were lost, while those who had already crossed the bridge were safe.